Hey Gemini, what's up, guys, and welcome to your reading. So, this reading has been picking the cards, trying to figure out the lighting, trying to figure out kind of what to focus on and stuff. It's been a little bit jumbled, so I wonder if you've been kind of contemplating stuff like that. Also, I noticed a lot of like pinks and oranges and stuff. So, you could just feel extra cautious about making decisions right now. You could also just be like choosing colors for something. For some of you guys, if there is like a pregnancy around you, they might be a girl. I just have that feeling. I don't know. It's not going to be for everyone, but there's definitely a vibe here of that. So let's see. For your past life card, we have monk or nun. Okay. And I also want to get an oracle card here. So this is the Astro. This is the Star Codes Astro Oracle. The one I just pulled from is the past life deck, if you can't see that. This one is the Angels of Abundance here, and then we have the Wizard's Tarot there. So, let's see, Gemini. Some of you guys might be like getting over a grieving period too, or like I don't really know what to call it, but it just seems like there's a period of being down or something. So you have Saturn structure. Okay. Actually, I'm going to put that up here because I feel like this one's pretty important. I do think it's related to something here. Let's pull that one last. Let's get some tarot. These have already been shuffled. I'm just tarot shuffling them now. Okay, so give me some energy for Gemini. Let's sort through some of this kind of like, I feel like we're starting off with some confusion and stuff already, or just there's a lot going on at once. And I kind of want to cut through that and then get to like, well, what can we focus on and what's helpful, you know? Okay. So you have the Three of Wands. Maybe there's something you've wanted in the past and it's somehow coming up now. It's just like, it's a weird thing to say, but I feel like there's something that you've really wanted, Gemini. And now it's like here and it doesn't feel the way that you thought it would feel. It's almost like maybe you felt like it would be really exciting and exhilarating and whatnot, and it just comes in this like mundane form where you have to like do all this work and you don't always get to enjoy whatever it is that this kind of like blessing or gift is. And I think in the past when you wanted it, you actually were like really set on having like experiencing the joy of a situation. I don't know, for some of you guys, like that might be an event. And for others of you guys, that might actually be like a change to your life in a big way. Okay, so some of you guys are a little bit worried about providership. Some people here might be experiencing like a pregnancy or like a new baby, or just like a new project that takes so much responsibility and focus. I do feel like there's a sense of being overwhelmed by needing to provide. And maybe a little bit of defeat of like, how am I going to do this? Followed by this like, no, I want this. I'm going to keep going with it. Okay. So I do feel like Gemini, you guys are in this period of your journey here where you are overcoming the urge to kind of like set something down because it's too much. Instead, I feel like you're finding creative ways to move forward with it, to make the decision to like keep it in your life and to make it good if it's not already appearing that way. I also get that you're deciding or you are putting some kind of action towards renditioning things as they are so that you can cope with them. Like there's some kind of added skill that you're investing in here, that lets you it's like it lets you keep your dream. It lets you move through a difficult dream that doesn't come in the way that you're expecting it, or maybe at the time that you're expecting it, but it's here and it's like it is something that you want. And instead of saying like no, it's just not working, I kind of see you rising to the occasion here. Also, my tea says, let's see if we can see it. It says the unknown, focus. The unknown is where all outcomes are possible. Enter it with grace. Which inherently tells me, and I know if you're Gemini, you already understand this way of thinking, is if it says like the outcome, that like the unknown is where all outcomes are possible, enter it with grace, it's alluding to the idea that there are obstacles and difficulties and like reasons you would need grace. It's not easy, it's not smooth, it's not digestible all the time, but adding in gratitude, adding in grace, adding in forgiveness, adding in patience, adding in mindfulness, there's like this ability to add things in to combat the things that make it less enjoyable because it's actually something that you want. Some of you guys might be traveling soon or wanting to travel. Maybe this is like you wanting to move. The Queen of Pentacles with the World right next to it kind of is this like, and the, well, we can add the Ten of Swords in here, but it's like kind of this feeling of defeat around choosing a better place to live or a better house or one more suitable for what your situation is or is becoming. Maybe that's even just like an office if this is a work situation. And trying to choose the best possible outcome for like setting yourself up for success. Really looking into like, hey, where can I go where maybe like rent's cheaper or my mortgage can be cheaper and then I can spend more on this and that. And maybe that's how you can plan better, right, for what is unfolding in your future. It's like there's this hope and this dream to move or to move through something smoothly, but there is this sense of like defeat that you keep overcoming in that, where it's like, you know what would solve this, but it's just not doable or it's not practical for your situation right now. And it seems like a hard limit. Like in the Taurus reading, it kind of seems like it was more of like emotional limits being set, and they were not, like the Taurus was setting the hard emotional limits and being like, no, 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 you're crossing my boundaries, don't do that. This actually seems like they're physical barriers, like not enough money to buy another house. Maybe you can't move locations for your work or your family or whatever, like people have roots, you know? It just seems like there's a more physical barrier for you guys, Gemini, one that you're trying to overcome creatively, but also like you're still working towards that move or working towards something here. Like, kind of figuring this out in a different way. So it's like, instead of being able to move or change the situation because it just looks like you're needing to cope with a lot of things and let the changes happen. Um, and kind of like, one thing that I'm noticing is that you've got like the Saturn structure here. Some of you guys could be going through a Saturn return. If you don't know what that is, don't mind that. Um, but I feel like with this Four of Pentacles coming up and the Saturn return, it's kind of saying like, you have these dreams, and I think that they're dreams that you keep pushing away because they're not doable, they're not practical at the moment, but then they keep coming back, right? So like, why do they keep coming back? And it's just like, it's just letting me know as your reader that it's just something that you actually truly desire at your core. Is like, you want to move, you want to live in a different house, you want to live in a different town, you want to uh implement coping mechanisms for being able to reach your goals when they seem too difficult and like the mountain seems too high to climb, or too like it would take too long, take too much of your life. You have these dreams like reawakening within you, and maybe it has something to do with this. We'll get to that in a little, but maybe it has something to do with the idea that you know, you're gaining a sense of security and balance within yourself to stay on your track, to stay in your lane, to manage yourself, to take care of yourself, to manage your responses to things so that it's in alignment with your future and what you want. Like, there's goals and milestones that you're reaching and hitting that are great. And it's kind of all helping you to solidify your goal. And so one thing that you might notice that you're doing is you're actually like budgeting more friendly to what works for you and your family or your roommates, your situation. You might be focused on more on savings, like especially around the holiday season. You might be kind of like making some of your own stuff, decorations, gifts, maybe keeping it to like a trip instead of a bunch of stuff. Maybe there's a way that your perspectives are shifting too, where you're kind of like, I want experiences and I will pay for experiences, and I want to pay for like things that I can consume in that moment, but I don't want to like pay for things that just pile up and build up. It just seems like there's some clutter, or there's some kind of like, what is going on here? It's too much, it's chaotic. And then when you look around, it's like, these aren't any of my dreams. These are just things I thought I needed in the moment, but like I would trade all of this to have the house that I want, or you know, like to be able to say like, do I want to move right now, or kind of have these options. There's a heavy vibe on moving. I'm not exactly sure why, but moving, like the world, that can symbolize like a long journey. So you could take that metaphorically, or you could take that literally. It can literally be a move, like a long distance move, long distance travel. It could also just be a journey that takes like 9 months. It could be birthing a business. It could be starting a new career. It could be birthing a baby. Like, it could be recovering from a baby, you know, like recovering from a pregnancy. Um, it could also be recovering from something like grief, something like depression, anxiety, whatever, like something that takes a span of time, right? And so it's like there's something really big and beautiful happening. And I kind of want to read this card now. But it's just taking a while to live in that energy, instead of let it just be a fantasy or a dream or a place that you go that almost like overwhelms you because you feel like it can't happen. Now there's some sense of stability being brought in to help build a foundation, to build pillars under these steps that you're reaching, because it looks like that might have been what was lacking, is some sense of stability of like, you want to go from A to Z, you want to jump, you want to make this big decision, but let's build, you know, B through Y. Let's build those steps to help you get there. It's like you're building a bridge to your future, and Uh, and it, what it might feel like is that possibilities are being stripped away. But I think what's really happening is clarity's coming in to show you what you don't need to be a part of that future vision. And I think that's where this structure comes in, is it's kind of like, hey, let's get real and practical about like how to achieve this, because you might be feeling a little overwhelmed, or you might be kind of like feeling like you're lost in all the sauce, and you're trying to focus on so many things, and if you just keep moving through them, everything will be okay. But it kind of also makes you feel uncomfortable, like you don't have control in that situation. You're just going with the flow. And part of this monk or nun card, what it symbolizes to me is that the monk or nun archetype can be one where you kind of like lose your cool, you have a temper, you have these like moments of rage and moments of just like losing control, but you also have these moments of just absolute peace, absolute like ability to give someone else that space too. Like it jumps back and forth until it feels like you can root in the one that you want to choose. And maybe that's a bit of that Gemini mind, is like you guys tend to see, at least this is how I perceive it. You guys tend to see like the rest of a situation if someone points out one thing about it. It's like your mind just can fill in the pieces. And so if I say there's a red octopus swimming in the ocean, you're not just picturing that octopus, right? You're picturing the entire ocean, the tree line, like what could be underneath. Are there whales back there? Are there boats? You're filling in the picture to help your mind process what's going on. And when you do that, though, you tend to overwork yourself, and especially can get distracted by what other people are saying, because your mind can't help but want to learn that world too, want to understand it. It like craves more knowledge. And that's something I, like myself, as someone who's a Virgo sun and a Gemini South node, information seems like the biggest, you know, coax or the biggest like lure in the world until you can't stop thinking, and then it kind of seems like a curse. And I definitely struggle with that too. And I think that what this is trying to do is get you to simplify, like, hey, what's missing in your foundation to make this a simple process for yourself? What's missing in your foundation to be able to say, I don't need this. I don't need that anxiety. All I'm doing is I'm building something that is, I'm providing, I'm working my way, I'm saving, I'm completing these steps. You know, like I I have security, I have job security, I have financial security. What am I so worried about? You know, like it's kind of coming in to be like, what you know what, I'm actually going to keep it like this. It's kind of coming in to be like, what can help simplify this so that you can just keep taking one step in front of the other. I've also heard Gemini described as like yes and energy, where it often wants to be like yes but, and then kind of backtrack or get lost, like turned around. And instead of that, it's like more of an improv thing where you go, yes, that's true, and this can be true. We just keep adding. It's not overwhelming. It's just that's life. You know, like you don't have to check one rationality or practicality against every other thing. It can just all exist in the same space. And sometimes that doesn't translate when there's too much going on, you know? Sometimes it's like, that's directly in conflict with this, and it can start to feel overwhelming if you don't have tools to simplify that information, because your brain is just naturally going to absorb it, right? So I'll show you the card, and I'll put this off to the side. Saturn rules that which we must build over time: bones, teeth, personal authority, maturity, borders, discipline, traditions, and organization. Saturn, like Jupiter, is a huge gas giant. With its rings of ice and rock, it represents the boundary of the invisible solar system as the last planet humans can see with the naked eye from Earth's surface. Saturn, traditionally ruler of Capricorn and Aquarius, takes 29.5 years to round the zodiac and forms challenging aspects to itself approximately every 7 years. Hence the 7-year itch in a marriage, and 21 is the traditional age of official adulthood. Saturn asks you to step into sorry, I was going to put it down and then I just felt like someone could still be looking at it. Saturn asks you to step into the next level of maturity and personal authority. Think of Saturn as a martial arts master who pushes you to grow through workouts, discipline, and tests that allow you to prove what you know, both to yourself and to others. Look for a mentor or choose to mentor another. Honor the teacher, but don't give your power away. Listen to the experts, mix their wisdom with your experience, and make your own wise decisions. If you feel like someone is abusing their authority or undermining yours, set firm boundaries and hold them accountable. Study, cope, grow up. So, one thing about setting boundaries is like, it's making me think of this study that was done where if there's like a difficult person in your family and you end up like marrying someone or end up with a life partner and you're trying to, you know, be family with them and get along and stuff, a lot of the times the couple that doesn't set the firm boundaries with that difficult person or non-empathetic person or overbearing, over controlling, unable to be present, mindful, whatever person, that sorry, I'm like hearing a plane and it's making me think that maybe there's someone that you're thinking of in your family that could be that, where you'd like have to take a plane to get to them. Maybe you've even been thinking of moving next to them. I don't know why that's popping in, but anyways. And so the people, the couples and, you know, the people who end up trying to have relationships with those people in their family end up having like a terrible time navigating that if they don't set boundaries. And the ones who actually set firm boundaries like consistently and don't let that person override them and they stand strong in that together actually end up having a better relationship with that difficult person than anyone else in the family who refuses to set those boundaries. And I'm just saying that because if you have someone like that in your family and you're worried that it's going to distance you, it's like boundary up. It's going to help everybody. I don't know why it works that way. You'd think that it works the opposite, but when boundaries are made extraordinarily clear, it's almost impossible to keep crossing them. So I don't know why I felt the need to say that. Look pragmatically to the skeleton and teeth, either of your own body or in the metaphorical structure of your project. Ooh, I like that. Can this endeavor stand up and take a bite out of life? Make sure the foundations are strong, the organizational structures are in place, and build out from there. I love it when it all comes together with the rest of the reading. Like, build your foundation. That's exactly what you're doing. As you gain strength in mind, muscle, and bone, you can become stiff, so remember to stretch body and soul. Be careful not to cling to old conceptions of success or hold on to a brittle system that restricts potential and leaves people discouraged. The ancestors call you to wisdom and maturity to know your gifts and limitations. This process may be an initiation, a test that empowers you. So that's kind of cool, right? So I'm just going to get some Angels of Abundance cards because I feel like there was a heavy focus on like, what's the problem? What's going on? This is overwhelming. I'm just going to try to cope through it, like grin and bear it. And maybe because it made more sense than to open the can of worms, to hash everything out right in this moment with whoever it is that you're dealing with. And that's totally an acceptable decision to make. It's just when you're stuck in that gray area, in that interim, like, what do you do when you feel like you're floating everywhere and you just want to be grounded? You just want to feel rooted. You want to feel like your decisions are your own. You don't want to feel like you're swaying in the wind. You want to feel like you're on a breeze and or maybe not even on a breeze, that you're on a river and you know where it's going and you have a paddle and a boat. You know, like you have the the ability and the skill to cause your direction, not to be I don't know, almost like a victim to it. But I'm not. I that came out kind of harsh. I don't think that you're I don't think that you're like in a victim role when you're doing that. But I have noticed with myself that sometimes hearing, like, I don't think anyone's intentionally putting themselves in that role, but I think that for myself, sometimes when I hear, like, you aren't the victim to this, or maybe you have been the victim to this, but how can you address it moving forward so that you are in the driver's seat? Sometimes it's like, whoa, there's life after this. There's options. There's change coming. There's potential in me I haven't even looked at yet. Sometimes that can be helpful to know that there's something good, like there's something good coming out of this. Sometimes in our most difficult times or our most confusing times, that's where just our strength of character is really shown to us. Once we really get through it and we're like, wow, I didn't give up and I found a way through and I knew I wanted what I wanted. And, like, damn if I wasn't going to keep going for it. It just was difficult in the moment. Okay, so you have employment change. That's kind of interesting. Your career path is leading you in a higher direction with positive changes to support your dreams, priorities, passions, and life purpose. Trust that these changes will help you release the old and welcome the new. You are being supported each step of the way. I think something that might be helpful to remember about this is that, like, it's over time that this support is being built. It's in foundations and structures and kind of like, hold on, let me check this real quick. Okay. Your support is formulated over time. It's not all going to come 100% in one day when you need it the most. This is the phase of your life where you're needing it to find the success that you're looking for. And it happens over time. It happens over different obstacles. And I think it happens the most when you just keep like showing up to the day and saying, yesterday might have sucked, or the first half of this day might have sucked, but I have control over what happens today. I have control over what happens for the last hour of my day. Like, if I don't have control over anything else, I have the ability to do something from here for the next however long, even if it's just 10 minutes, journaling, whatever it is, to like affect that. All these small things are accumulating, and I think your reading is actually showing too, is like the big drastic changes aren't really real. They can be perceived over time as big drastic changes, but they're just formulated by little tiny steps in that direction, and little tiny micro decisions to realign with that direction. Like, just even if you have like 3 crappy months, you can still choose to keep going in the direction that you wanted, if that's something that you want after those 3 crappy months. You have that power to decide. So you have abundance mindset. If you think of your abundance as something that happens in the future, then it will always be one day away from you. See, feel, think, and speak of abundance as something you already have in the present moment, and that is what you will experience. Focus on your priorities. Where you put your focus is where you receive your outcome. Your priorities are calling to you, which may produce a feeling, of anxiety, unless you give them the time and attention they and you deserve. Even a small amount of time devoted to your priorities will help you feel better and more confident. And if you guys are in a moment, because this is totally going to happen, it's part of that, like, it's part of my little tea bag here of the unknown is where all outcomes are possible. Enter it with grace. How we talked about how that can kind of be like also foreshadowing that there are going to be difficulties, and then that grace will be necessary in that space. I think that if you're in a space where you're kind of like, man, I don't know which way is up, like, I don't have the motivation to do jack right now, like, things are just difficult, I'm grieving, I'm sick, I'm sad, I'm confused, I'm like sleep deprived, I have insomnia, like things that you can't get rid of overnight, right? I think that maybe there's been something where, like, you've been getting a lot of feedback that you should just like do something immediately about that. But I actually think that part of this process for you is like really feeling all parts of this path. And if we know there's obstacles within it and there's challenges to overcome and stuff, like, are you giving yourself the proper amount of time and space and love and support and validation that you need to feel these things so that they can pass through you? Maybe that's a bit what that chaotic feeling was in the beginning, is like just trying to keep it moving to stay in flow, but I don't know what I'm doing. Like the flow seems so jumbled, but nothing has gone terrible yet. So maybe that's okay. And I think that what it's trying to say is like how this was saying, if you think your abundance is something that happens in the future, then it will always be one day away from you. I think it's kind of like your mindset and how clear and how calm and how focused you can feel on the thing of your choosing. That matters in this. And so if you're hitting a space where you're like, I don't have that, like, give yourself grace. Give yourself some space to kind of mourn whatever you need to mourn of why these structures aren't in place, why these foundations weren't here for you. Maybe that's in your childhood. Maybe that's, you had a bad partnership, or you had an experience in life kind of like, you had a few rounds with life that knocked it down, or that really got you. They really hurt you. I think this is about like, this is all a part of your path. And the more that you can claim that, the more it continues to be something that's known and willingly claimed by you as your path. So you can stay on it. Sometimes staying on the rails does mean grieving. Sometimes staying in your trajectory, it does mean like processing the difficult things that you could be avoiding, thinking that they're going to derail you. And it's like, no, that's something that we want you to work through. We want you to move through it and come out the other end of it so that you have a coping mechanism developed for when it comes up again. Like, we can accept that that's part of you. Can you? And it's kind of just saying, like, claim yourself here, like all parts, the parts that you don't understand, the parts that you don't like, because what's building is stability in being able to accept all those and say, that's all me. And I need to be able to claim all of me to get to where I'm going. Like, it's me driving us there, you know? Yeah, I think people don't talk about this a lot. It's like some days you're just gonna have to not like yourself very much to get to a point in life where you love what you've built, you love what you've become. Like it's a good it's a good thing to have that contrast. It's not You're not failing if you let your guard down and be vulnerable for a day or a week or whatever, you know? You're it's not a bad thing to get to know yourself in those more intimate ways. Your last one is pay yourself first. Make yourself your most important financial obligation by setting aside a portion of your income every time you are paid. This loving form of self-care ensures that you'll have savings to invest in your present and your future. And I'll leave that here. So, Gemini, that's what I'm seeing for you guys. I would wish you luck, but it's like it's on your side already. And I think that maybe this phase of your life is where you're ready to see that. You're ready to see that something else wants your plans to unfold right before you in a beautiful way, as much as you do, you know? So that's what I have for you guys. Stay tuned for the Cancer reading next. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.